It's time for GGSP. Eevee, I choose you.
Whoa, it's really cramped in there.
That Eevee looks more like a Psyduck.
Coming up on the show, we've got our huge review of Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu.
Plus, the awesome audio-visual experience that is Tetris Effect.
And I drum up a Let's Play of Taiko No Tatsujin Drum and Fun on the Switch.
Yes! Okay, so can you do a tail whip? Or maybe a growl?
Oh.
There are very few people in the world who have never heard of the tile-matching game Tetris. From its humble roots as a passion project by Russian game developer Alexei Pajitnov to one of the most famous games in history, Tetris has left its mark.
Over the years, it's seen all sorts of remakes and reboots and inspired countless other video games. And now, it's time for Tetris to be reborn once more in the explosive experience, Tetris Effect.
Tetris Effect is, in part, the brainchild of Luminous creator Tetsuya Mitsuguchi, so you can be sure you're going to be sent on one wild ride, which kicks off in the story campaign called Journey. Here, you'll get right down to business, clearing your way through several levels of classic Tetris, all set to different art styles and music.
I was really surprised by just how stunning these visuals were. From the mystical deep blue sea to the wild, wild west. The variety is breathtaking, and each feels like its own self-enclosed journey. At first, I was worried they'd become too distracting in a game that relies so heavily on deep concentration, but thankfully that wasn't the case. The actual gameplay is contained to the small rectangle in the center of the screen, and I found I was able to really hone in on what was happening without too much difficulty.
For the first level or so, I thought that narrow playing field amidst so much open space felt a bit wasteful, but you're absolutely right. There's something really hypnotic about how the background moves that just naturally draws your eye into the center. Everything happening around you just feels like it enhances the experience.
And don't think that this impressive light show is just there to cover up a lack of intense puzzle action, because Tetris Effect is not messing around. Depending on the track you're playing through, the pace of the falling tetrominos will change. Some levels will see the traditional slow burn with a gradually increasing pace, while others will keep it hectic and give you a slight reprieve only to speed up again. I liked this staggered difficulty. It kept things interesting instead of relying solely on the visuals.
I think I would have liked a bit more consistency with the themes of each series of levels though. My favourites in particular were the more chill areas. I particularly liked the one that began out in a desert, only to morph into a gorgeous shot of the moon where a lone astronaut trucks along. It's a beautiful scene that's accompanied by this really haunting track that's both sad but uplifting.
On the flip side, my favourite were those fast-pumping wild beats. The way the music shifted and grew bolder as I became more comfortable in the rhythm of the game was really exhilarating.
A new addition to the Tetris formula is the zone function. As you clear away lines, your zone meter will fill, which when activated, temporarily pauses the action to give you time to clear away blocks, rack up sweet combos, and provide a much-needed break from the onslaught of falling tetrominos. It's a nifty little feature that definitely came in handy in those later levels.
There's also a wide variety of other ways to play outside of the main campaign, and these are within Effect mode. This is divided into 4 categories: relaxed, classic, focus, and adventurous, to suit your mood and playstyle. My personal favourite of the bunch was called Mystery Mode, which absolutely obliterates the classic Tetris structure, with the playfield occasionally flipping or giant behemoth tetrominos causing utter chaos. It's a lot of silly, sometimes ragey fun.
I can't relate. Call me boring, but my personal favourite was the chilled-out marathons. Here, it's just you and the blocks as you try and clear out 150 lines. It's a very zen experience for the most part, with no game overs if you mess up. Just a clean slate to start over again.
Whatever your playstyle, it feels like Tetris Effect has something for you. In fact, it's also fully compatible with PlayStation VR. It's a very different kind of experience playing in 3D, and I did find myself getting distracted more easily by the dazzling background. but I do think it's a nice extra feature to have available.
Weirdly enough, I didn't have too much problem focusing in VR, and I'd go as far to say that this is the best way to experience Tetris Effect from a visual standpoint. Of course, as with any VR game, you want to be responsible and limit yourself to how much time you spend in the world of virtual reality. We should probably wrap this up. Final blocks? Thoughts? Right?
Tetris Effect does what any good addition to a series should do. It builds on the original and offers improvements without losing the soul. It's beautiful, it's cinematic, but most importantly, it's full of top-notch puzzle action that kept me on the edge of my seat trying to beat my high score. I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
I went into this with a very specific idea on what I was getting into, but that idea didn't hold a candle to the musical and visual treat I got playing Tetris Effect. While I'm still no puzzle master, I really enjoyed the journey and can see myself coming back to this again and again just to enjoy the ride. It's 4 out of 5 rubber chickens from me.
Which Tetromino do you think best represents you?
Ooh, I'd be that little blocky, little zigzaggy one.
The S shape?
Yeah!
Yeah, I think I'd be a square, you know? It's hip to be a square.
I couldn't agree more.
It's time for a GGSP Let's Play, and today I'm checking out Taiko No Tatsujin Drum and Fun, a music rhythm game based on the super popular Taiko drum arcade machines, which can be found in pretty much every arcade in Japan. In fact, if you caught our special ep last week, you would have seen Gem drumming away on one of them. Look at her go. But how do you drum on a Switch, I hear you ask? Well, it turns out there's actually quite a few different methods, so I'm going to jump in, check them all out, and find out which one makes me a true Taiko no Tatsujin, which I learned translates to Drum Master. I have my traditional Hachimaki headband. Let's do this.
Taiko no Tatsujin Nintendo Switch version.
So first off is controller mode, which maps the drum skin and the rim of the drum to the buttons on a controller, so you can play docked on your TV. Okay, drum, rim. Oh, double? Okay, so the big ones are a double here. All right, here we go. Good drum roll face, I'm assuming. Double. New high score! So controller works pretty well. But what if you're missing the rhythmic feeling of drumming a beat? Well, then you can undock the unit and tap away at the bottom of the screen using touch controls. You need 2 fingers. Whoa! Woo! So tapping on the screen does feel a bit more like drumming, but to step it up, I can remove the Joy-Cons and use motion controls to simulate using drumsticks. It feels a bit silly because I'm not hitting anything. Good tune. And finally, we've managed to get our hands on a Taiko drum controller that can be plugged into the Switch dock. Now, these are a little tricky to find because they haven't arrived on our shores just yet. So for now, I'm just going to see if playing a mini drum feels at all like the real thing. Wish me luck. Okay. Drumming. It's working. Ah. Oh. Drum roll! Yes! Yes! No, yes, yes! Combo's still going. So that was a look at the different drumming modes of Taiko No Tatsujin Drum and Fun on the Switch. And the first thing that really stood out to me is how they've managed to make the act of hitting a single drum so incredibly complex, but at the same time a lot of fun. You're not just hitting single beats in time with the song. There are rolls, double hits, edge taps, and they're all simple enough on their own, but once the song starts throwing them all in together, you can see that there's some real skill to it. As for the different types of controls, well, they each had their own pros and cons, but at the end of the day, it was actually the touch controls that won me over. Next to using buttons on a handheld controller, it was the most accurate at responding to my input. But unlike using a controller, it still kind of gives the sensation of playing an actual drum, which is kind of half the fun. The Joy-Cons and the drum kit, on the other hand, looked and felt the most authentic, but they would often miss or misinterpret my hand motions, or more annoyingly, would register a hit where there was none. A big problem in a game all about racking up combos. Speaking of the music, it's such a crazy mixed bag of Japanese, pop, anime themes, even some video game tunes as well, which you might not think would work with a taiko drum, but surprisingly, it turns out everything works with a taiko drum. And while personally I can't speak a word of Japanese, all the songs are so catchy with high energy and cute vocals. The whole thing is an undeniably Japanese experience, and one that I will definitely come back to keep playing, even if it's just to master a few of my new favourite tracks. Speaking of which, I now think I'm truly ready to test my new taiko skills. Begin expert mode! Oh no, oh no! Ah! Rad, I think the time has come for another round of Ask SP.
Oh, yes! I, for one, am a keen bean. Are you a keen bean, Goose?
I suppose I am, but I'm curious, what kind of bean is a keen bean? Are we talking kidney beans, green beans, cannellini beans, soybeans? Oh, navy beans, which are also known as haricot beans, and I think those are the ones used in baked beans.
Goose, I never thought I would say this, but it's time to stop listing beans and take a look at this video from Dante.
Taiko game 4 point, and I got 2 questions for you. If you make an account on Minecraft PE and you get Minecraft on the PS4, will it save your progress and worlds? Second question, can you get Super Mario Odyssey on the PS4? Bye!
Ah, thanks, Dante, and cool headwear there. Definitely worthy of a GGSP pin, as are all videos that we select to show on the show. In answer to your first question about whether there's a way to access progress and worlds from Minecraft PE on Minecraft PS4, I don't think so. At least, I haven't come across a way. What about you, Goose?
Well, I have heard of it being possible to transfer worlds between certain devices using Minecraft Realms, but this is generally across platforms which run a compatible version of Minecraft. And I don't think the PS4 edition is part of that family of Bedrock versions, which Minecraft PE or mobile would be running, at the moment anyway.
As for whether you can get Super Mario Odyssey on the PS4, well, the short answer here is no. As with most major first-party Nintendo games, like those big Mario ones, I very much doubt they'll ever be available on PS4, because Nintendo want you playing on a Nintendo console.
Indeed. Moving on now to a question from Darren's future self in the future, obviously. Hello, old friends. I haven't seen you since I disintegrated you and the other noobs with my lasers. Ha 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 ha! I was looking through my memory banks and realised something. So now I ask, what happened to Darren's challenge? If you do answer this question, I may go back in time and spare you from disintegration. Maybe. Ha 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 ha! A question about Darren's challenge. That's the segment we used to have where Darren presented a gaming clue about a game that was then revealed at the end of the show. We better let Darren know his future self has sent us a question.
And ask about that whole disintegration thing.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Darren.
Hey, Darren. I don't mean to alarm you, but we have a question here from your future self, who is wondering what happened to Darren's challenge.
Did you run out of challenges, Darren?
Negative. I have access to material for infinite challenges. I'm just very busy up here in the cloud. But I have to say, I'm rather impressed with my future self. He must have figured out how to communicate with the past. I'm not surprised if my future self is as clever as my current self. It makes total sense. Although, wouldn't my future self already know the answer to this question?
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe it's an imposter.
Sacre bleu!
Oh, well, I guess that's kind of good, though. That would mean that whole disintegrating us with lasers thing isn't true. I mean, you joke about it, but you'd never actually do it to us, would you, Darren?
Of course not. asterisk.
Wait, Darren, did you just say asterisk?
Pardon?
I think I heard you say the word asterisk. Maybe to put some kind of disclaimer on the statement that you wouldn't laser us?
Oh, Rad, you and your imagination. Well, got to go.
Okay, bye, Darren. Oh, those phone calls never really fill me with much comfort.
Me neither. But you know what does fill me with comfort and determination? Questions. Like this one from Temmie in the Tem Fortress, New South Wales. Will you do a review on Deltarune, the second Undertale game? Also, do you know when the second chapter of Deltarune will come out?
Thanks, Temmie. For those of you who may not know, Deltarune is the latest project from Undertale creator Toby Fox. The first chapter of Deltarune was made available as a surprise-free demo for fans to play recently.
Yeah, it has a lot in common with Undertale, including some familiar characters and even the letters used in its spelling. Deltarune is an anagram of Undertale, but apparently this game has a whole new story.
Now to your question of whether we'll review Deltarune, well, I'm not sure we'd do a full review just yet, considering it's just the first chapter.
Exactly, Goosey. We'll probably wait until it's a more complete game before considering a full review. But hey, I know Jem played the first chapter, so maybe she could give us her thoughts in the meantime. I'll give her an old ring-a-ding-a-ding-dong.
Hello?
Hey, Jem, it's Rad and Goose calling from the Ask SP desk.
Wow, I feel like Darren. What's up, guys?
Not much. We were just wondering what you thought of the first chapter of Deltarune.
Oh, I really liked it. It takes the heart and spirit of Undertale and updates it, including adding a much-needed walk faster control. I love the wacky charm and characters and can't wait to see what the next chapter or the full game has in store. Especially because this chapter ended on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Oh, intriguing. Thanks, Jem. Bye. I'll see you at lunch.
Bye.
Bye.
Speaking of when the next chapter might be coming out, Toby Fox himself suggests he isn't sure how long the project will take.
Yeah, apparently it took him years to develop the first chapter of Deltarune, and he thinks he'll have to put a team together for this project. So we could be waiting a while.
Indeed. And on that note, I believe we're out of time. If you have a question you'd like to send us, then go here.
Ooh, is that a new web address I spot?
Thanks for noticing, Rad. It sure is. Our website has actually had a little bit of a makeover recently, and I think you'll agree both the site and the URL are looking very slick.
Yeah. Oh, it is slick. Oh, we can get that back, right?
I hope so. Rad, it's been a while since a wild Pokémon game appeared. I think we're overdue for one.
Pokémon, let's go!
No, stay. We're doing a review.
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is the first big Pokémon game on the Switch. You play as a fresh young Pokémon trainer who's traveling the region to study Pokémon, battle other trainers, and become the best, like no one ever was. It's so great to finally have a new Pokémon game.
Technically speaking, Rad, it's games. Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokémon Let's Go Eevee are two separate titles, despite being extremely similar. The games take direct inspiration from Pokémon Yellow, which was released in Australia on the Game Boy Color in 1999. In fact, they recreate the same Kanto region with many of the same characters and the original 151 Pokémon that featured in Yellow. The most obvious difference between the two Let's Go titles is whether your starting Pokémon is Pikachu or Eevee, but there are also certain Pokémon that will only appear in the wild in each version.
Yeah, but Daz, I've never been a huge fan of the dual release because I always feel like I'm missing out on something.
Ah, well, Goose, you can't have it all.
I've got to catch them all.
I'm sure you will one day, Goose. Your chosen Poké Buddy walks around the world with you, and you can play with them by petting them or even dress them up. Ooh, so cute!
This helps you bond with your Pokémon, which makes them perform better in battles. And when you're not battling other trainers, you'll be hunting down wild Pokémon, which, in a nice change, now appear roaming around the world. And I really liked this because it removes the randomness and even lets you run away from some encounters. Ah, get away!
Let's Go also incorporates some gameplay mechanics from the mobile game Pokémon Go, most notably the catching. You need to throw your Pokéball with a flick of the Joy-Con, land it inside the moving circle, and you get a catch bonus.
Rad, I wasn't a fan of this at all. First of all, the controls. You can't use the Pro Controller or Joy-Con grip when docked. Instead, you're forced to use a single Joy-Con or the special Pokéball controller, which is sold separately. It feels silly using a single Joy-Con, and it's not comfortable. Secondly, in classic Pokemon games, you would have to battle wild Pokemon to lower their health before catching them. And battling requires strategy, which is way more fun to me than throwing a ball at a circle. It's all overly simple, and it feels very repetitive.
I felt that way too at first, and because I've played so much Pokemon Go, seeing even more of that circle felt very tedious. But I grew to like it. Your Pokemon still get XP for catches, and it's all a little faster. Yes, it does mean you're catching dozens of the same Pokemon, but you can trade them into Professor Oak for candy. Oh, delicious candy.
They're for the Pokemon, Red, not for you. Feeding these candy to your Pokemon upgrades various stats. I will admit that this made doubling up feel better, because at least the spares are still useful.
Yeah, and the candies let you power up any Pokemon, so you don't have to worry so much about comparing their individual stats, like you do in Pokemon Go. In fact, the two games are quite strongly linked, with Let's Go allowing you to import Pokemon from Go into special Go Parks, where you can interact with them. Unfortunately, linking accounts wasn't available when we reviewed this, but it sounds like a cool way to beef up your collection.
Yeah, it does. But Brad, I can't help but feel this whole game is a bit half-baked. For instance, the Pokeball controller is too basic, with only 2 buttons and a joystick, while you have to shake it to press the Y button. It took me ages to figure that out, which was really frustrating. All the on-screen prompts in the game are for the regular Joy-Con. It's just an oversight considering that the Pokeball was designed for this game.
Oh, I loved the Pokeball. It made me feel like a real Pokemon trainer. It's also more comfortable to hold and more accurate to throw than the Joy-Con. When linked to Pokemon Go, it apparently can be used to catch Pokemon or automatically spin Pokestops for you. I can't wait to try that out.
There are also some multiplayer elements in Let's Go. You can trade to get game-exclusive Pokemon or battle with friends, but you don't get anything from winning those.
You can also connect 2 controllers to the game and have a second player help you in battle. It's nice to give you a bit of an advantage, but I think I'd be very bored as player 2.
Brad, I think I'm bored of this overall. It's a very tired formula to me. And because it's based on an earlier Pokemon title, some of the updated features from later games don't seem to be present here at all. Sure, I really enjoyed Pokemon Yellow when it came out. It felt like such an adventure, but this is more or less the same game with just a new lick of paint. Although it is a good lick, the game looks great.
Oh, doesn't it just? I can see how this feels old with dated gameplay systems, but to me it also feels streamlined. I was worried I'd be bogged down in stats trying to find and keep the best Pokemon, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Instead, I can just get to catching and training and riding my Onix in town.
If the Switch is your first console and you've never actually played a Pokemon RPG before, then this is a fantastic way to enter the series. But it's just too much of the same for an old Poke trainer like myself, so I'm giving it 2.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Honestly, this is exactly the game that I wanted. An updated version of the best Pokemon experience I've had. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 rubber chickens. Hey, do you reckon we can catch Darren with one of these things?
Ooh, good question. Hey, Darren.
Can I have a go now, guys?
It's super effective.
Next week on GGSP, Spyro the Dragon is back. We review the new Spyro Reignited trilogy.
Who are you again?
Make sure to catch up on all of GGSP's online exclusives, like our weekly Friday live streams.
Until next time, may all your games be good ones. Goose out.
Gem out.
Rat out.
Pardon me.